And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, in a new brand episode of Pro Wrestling Culture. My name Aldo Fialone, and here with me, the special guest of the evening, ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Jake Omen. Hi, Jake. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you very much for being here, man. My first question. You were a part
Yep.
of NWA Wrestling between 2008 and 2011, a place where you won the Underground Mayhem Cruiserweight title. What do you think
Mhm.
about your time there? Have you ever had the opportunity to show up in NWA during the Billy Corgan's regime?
Back in that time period, there were a good handful of NWA affiliates, and that was one of the better ones to be working for at the time, and that was a lot of fun. However, that was pretty far before Billy Corgan really came into the picture for NWA. I ended up working for Billy Corgan for his first wrestling promotion several years later. That was based in Chicago. It was called Resistance Pro Wrestling, and they actually had a heck of a run there for a couple year period of time before he ended up leaving. But I haven't seen him here in the last couple of years. I haven't been around, the new kind of revitalized NWA or anything like that in the last couple of years. I have some friends that work down there, and they tell me really good things, and I watch a little bit of the product. But yeah, not really sure if it's in the cards for me to pop up there at any time.
Yeah, and in the most part of your career, you've wrestled in the indies around the world. But have you ever had the chance to sign a contract with a major company and be a full time wrestler there?
Yeah, the only place that I've had full time contracts was in Japan. So, 2016 and 2017, I had contracts for Wrestle One, which was Great Muda's company in Japan, and I lived there
Yeah,
for quite a while, and trained every day and was a full time member of the roster, and that was fantastic. Still, some of the most fun experiences of my life, and then as a result of my run in Japan, I was able to get several WWE tryouts over the last few years, and when they're local, I do what they do local talent work with them all the time. But, I've yet to have any type of contract with any of the major American companies like WWE or AEW.
yeah, yeah. But I remember one of your matches around the Europe for Lucha Libre Barcelona against
Yep.
Ricky Barcelo for the absolute title in 2021. Uh,
Yep.
Tell me more about that experience because all that I want to know is what is your opinion about Spanish wrestling and European wrestling in this moment for you?
I love wrestling in Europe. But, I try to come over as much as I can, really, which ends up being, two or three times every year. And, I've gotten a good working relationship with Lucha Libre Barcelona there. And I'll go back there every time I can make it happen on a trip. Yeah, I think their scene's awesome. They have a bunch of young guys. They're training, they train like twice a day, most days of the week, which is really impressive. One of the things I love about European wrestling is it can be so vastly different on opposite sides of the continent. So, I can work a far different style in Spain than I can in, say, Finland or than in, say, like Italy. So it varies a lot. So if there's a particular style or a way you like to work, there's definitely a place for you to fit in. And I've always kind of prided myself on being able to wrestle every style and be able to wrestle with everybody and make it really good. So for me, it's a lot of options, and that's really cool.
And another cool part of your career was in 2022 when you wrestled in All Elite Wrestling during an episode of Dark Elevation. What do you think about that experience? In your opinion, AEW is a real competitor for WWE at the moment, like WCW and TNA was at that time.
Yeah, I think AEW is a great alternative. I don't think they're necessarily viewed as competition particularly, just because WWE is doing so well and they've been the industry leader so long. So I don't know if I would consider them, on the level of, say, WCW or anything like that. But AEW has been able to give a lot of my good friends jobs, and I've been lucky enough to work for them a handful of times, and even, be on a couple of the shows, in that kind of capacity. I can't say that I particularly liked any of the matches I've had there, just because of context. They have their YouTube show had like very specific requirements, and very short matches, and not a lot of the times you get to kind of show that what you're really capable of. So I wish that I'd had a better chance to really show them what I can do. And it's one of those places where I still have conversations about trying to go back for opportunities pretty often. But with wrestling, you never know when something's going to happen, or even if something's going to happen. So I could just be hanging out today and my phone randomly ring, and it's a big opportunity. You just have to be ready.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And this is the curious part, the most curious part of the interview. In a series of videos of 2 years ago on your YouTube channel, you said pro wrestling evolved and pro wrestling is dead.
Yes.
Then you mention NFL stars, bodybuilders, and many other athletes that become professional wrestlers in total different mode and time between 20 or 30 years ago. But
Yeah.
for you, pro wrestling is really dead. And if your answer is yes, is only for that or for other reasons?
Ooh, yeah, that is a long answer to that. So yeah, I
I'm a
say
good student.
yeah, no, that's a good question. So I love professional wrestling. It's been my passion for years, and that's what really drives me. And I think that pro wrestling, it's a sport, but it's also an art in a way. And as much as I love it, I love what it's supposed to be and what it has historically been. And pro wrestling at its base level needs to have one or two particular elements, and those elements can't change. And when those elements change too drastically, I think that you get a different form of entertainment, and it loses a sport feel, or it loses a fight feel. And to me, that's what most pro wrestling has lost. So I say pro wrestling is dead because sometimes people need slapped in the face for you to get their attention and for them to listen to you, right? So sometimes you say these drastic things, or these like hyperbolic things, just to get people to like, oh, what are you talking about? And that's what pro wrestling is dead means to me, because it's definitely not dead. I do, however, think that it could be a lot better, and the good pro wrestling is in short supply. I still don't like the idea of anyone getting into professional wrestling if they have a passion other than professional wrestling. Um, I think this needs to be for hungry athletes who love the sport of what we do. I'm never going to be a fan of somebody who chose pro wrestling as their second or third choice, or somebody that was just given a high level job and an opportunity because for some reason someone thinks that they could be a star. I can't really respect those people unless they prove themselves over years to put in so much work and they actually develop a passion for what we do. Because I think if you don't have a passion for what we do, you're not going to succeed, and the crowd isn't going to think that you're genuine or authentic. And when it comes to, WWE signs a lot of other athletes. They sign gymnasts and football players and actors and models. And and I'm not saying those people don't work hard. They might have worked very, very hard in their specific field. So I respect them for what they might have done prior to this. But they're probably never going to be as good at the job as a lot of the people I've met in my life and in my career. And I know a lot of people who've dedicated their entire existence to perfecting this that never got an opportunity over somebody who might have just been handed an opportunity. And that's kind of what I mean when I say pro wrestling is dead, where, I've been down to the Performance Center for tryouts several times. And in both times there's maybe, I've been in fields of like 46 people and then 12 people. So, and there were only a handful of wrestlers at each tryout. Well, to me, that's a problem. Like I think if you're trying to be the world's best professional wrestling company, which I'm not saying that they are, they might be trying to be the world's best entertainment company too. But if you're trying to be a professional wrestling company, no reason to hire anyone who's not a professional wrestler. Much like if an American football team wants to sign me to play their quarterback because they think that I'm a great pro wrestler and I have talent or aptitude, well, I'm going to work really, really hard to do that. But my whole life hasn't been based around being a quarterback. So there's going to be things I never really understand. And there's going to be things that come up in the game that I'm not going to be ready for and that I'm not going to I'm not going to comprehend and work through. And I think that's a problem with the people who don't have a passion to be a pro wrestler, because when we're in there, the game is going on and we have a lot of decisions we have to make right away. And our game can be changed by our opponent, by our referees, our officials. Our game can be changed by the crowd. So like you have to be ready for anything that could happen. And I can't just go in there and perform all these moves that I practiced in training for the last 6 months, even though I can execute them very well, and expect to be fully successful. And I think I feel like it's dishonest in a way. Like it's disingenuous for somebody who's not passionate about this to go do it. And I think those people will never be as good as people who are passionate about this and really dedicate their life to their craft. So that's kind of my pro wrestling is dead is just my take on, like, let's be real about this and let's like respect it like we should, because, a lot of the people that I know or that I was able to train with dedicated their life to this. And to them, it's not a game, and it's also not really even a job, even though we want it to be our job. We want it to, buy our house and stuff, but like, it's their calling. It wasn't just some random opportunity, or it wasn't just a lot of money. And I also think it's hard to appreciate being given such a great opportunity on a high level if you never had to do it at the lowest level. Like, you need to do this job for free, and you need to do this job for like peanuts, like no money at all, to appreciate when you get the opportunity to make it. So the fact that there's so few jobs in pro wrestling and some of those jobs aren't going to pro wrestlers, well, I think that's a pretty bad for the sport and for the future of the sport.
And after all that you said, what do you think about the WWE United States champion Logan Paul? Sorry for my question, but I want to know it.
That is an honest question. And I think I don't love hearing people say that Logan Paul is good. I think it bothers me a lot when people say that Logan Paul is good, because Logan Paul isn't a good professional wrestler at all. His matches are entertaining, and he has been given a role, and he's played the role very well. He's obviously putting in hard work. However, Logan Paul gets to work with some of the best professional wrestlers in the world in a context where they have the best professional coaches, where there's the best camera people, where there is every single thing possible around to make him look like he's exceptional at his job. I don't think that if things went awry, that Logan Paul could react in the way that a professional wrestler could react that comes from years of understanding the business. So I'll say that I've enjoyed his matches. He, like I said, he's played the role perfectly. However, my job for a lot of my career has been taking guys who aren't very good and making them look very, very good. You know, it's like a story. Like, did you ever hear like the story with Tom McGee and Bret Hart?
Allora, in my opinion, Logan Paul is a good
Hmm.
entertainer, but probably a middle wrestler, a,
Hmm.
a, a middle low wrestler, because
Yeah.
WWE is a totally different product. So
Yeah.
you mentioned people like Bret Hart. Bret Hart is the god of technical wrestling. Is a
Yes.
total different, and Logan Paul is total different between many other stars. But in your opinion, do you prefer the fighting, the wrestling part, or the entertainer part?
Oh yeah, I prefer the fighting part. I prefer the professional wrestling part. I want to see good in ring content and good in ring product, and that's the part that's hard to fake. That's the part that's hardest to perfect too. But the entertainment aspect can be amplified and modified to make the people in the ring that aren't great as far as in ring technique and talent look like they're good. So that's what happens with people like Logan Paul. It's also what happens with people like Ronda Rousey, where
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
not great at the pro wrestling. However, the people who are really great at pro wrestling and the people who are paid to make the pro wrestlers look better from the outside can sure make one person look great. And so my respect is with the people who are great in ring professional wrestlers and fighters and are legitimate, right? Not I don't care so much about the entertainment. Now I understand that we need the entertainment to make more money at what we do, and I do respect that. However, I would just hope that the people who've gotten the highest level opportunities would be the people who understand and respect this the most. I think those will be the people that'll usually always deliver more for you. Logan Paul is kind of an exception to the rule. He
yeah.
has so many followers and from all different walks of life and his podcast and everything where yeah, he might make the company more money because he is in the ring and he's so flashy and his entertainment value is so insane that it makes him look a lot better than he is. If you took Logan Paul and perfect example, so I recently was able to go in and coach a handful of the wrestlers in Frosinone, right, just outside of Rome, and I got to work with some really cool people. And there were two guys in my beginner seminar, and that I got to work with a lot one on one. Well, I could probably have a really good match with both of those students. I could probably make them look like they've wrestled for a few years, maybe more. I might be able to have a match with them that they could record and send to companies in Europe and get jobs. If Logan Paul came in, he couldn't have a match with them that would be respectable. He probably would be just as lost as they are. So, Logan Paul is always getting paired with guys like me who are going to make him look great and understand the business. And I think that means that he's had his hand held and people think
Yeah.
he's great because everyone he's worked with happens to be great. You're not going to see Logan Paul in a bad match. WWE won't put him in the ring with somebody that's not good enough to make
Uh,
him
uh,
good.
Probably Logan Paul in AEW it should be totally different, because
Yes.
AEW Dynamite is a wrestling show. Last night they announced Will Ospreay against Katsuyori Shibata for next week. It's
Yep.
totally is like pay-per-view material. In WWE is a pay-per-view material that a match like this in
Yes.
AEW is weekly, like TNA Impact, for example,
Yeah.
many times. Yeah. absolutely.
Exactly. So,
Uh,
if all of a sudden, if Logan Paul got signed to AEW or TNA, he'd be
yeah.
okay when they put him in there with Will Ospreay. However, there's a good chance that they would put him in there with some brand new, newly signed person who has very few matches. And if you put two people in there that aren't used to this and can't lead somebody, well, now all of a sudden you see through his work. You see that,
Mm.
oh, I guess he's not as good as I thought he was, because he and I'm trying to think of a newer guy at AEW or TNA. Like, I mean, obviously there's a lot of new young talent, and like Nick Wayne, right? Nick
Yeah,
Wayne, I'll
yeah,
I'll use him as an example because he has all the potential in the world. He will probably be great someday, especially being around a guy like Christian, who is incredible. However, put Nick Wayne and Logan Paul together, well, the match won't be good. It's going to have a lot of errors and it's going to have a lot of flaws because both of those guys need to be with somebody who really knows what they're doing. WWE will just never let somebody they want to look like a superstar go into a situation where someone isn't going to make them look like a superstar. I really do think that's a lot of the issue with AEW's booking anyway, is, they put people in these situations where you start seeing holes in their game right away, where WWE knows how to cover up those holes in your game.
yeah. My last question, man. What is your goal for your career in this very moment?
Yeah, my goal now is I want to travel to the most countries any pro wrestlers ever traveled to, and I want to coach in all of them. I want to go down as a great coach now. I have been wrestling for 20 years, and I know that I have a very short period of time left as a professional wrestler. So my goal has changed over the last year or two. Whereas I really wanted that WWE contract, and I really want, an AEW contract. I want to work for the highest level companies, and I'd love to be the superstar and the heavyweight champion. But now I realize there's a lot less likely chance of that happening due to my age and my prime being, limited now. So now I would really love to go be a coach for WWE. And if that doesn't happen, then I want to travel all around the world and I want to make all the pro wrestling scenes better. I'm really lucky that I have been able to go to a few countries that have virtually no wrestling scene and help train at schools. And there's a couple places I've been where they have a ring and they have a group of guys that really want to learn, but they don't even have an official coach. Well, you can't really get good if you don't have someone helping you out. So I know that there's a few scenes in Europe where, most of what they've learned has been from me. So when those guys go out, I've impacted the entire scene of, say, Cluj, Romania, because they don't have a coach, so like if I can help shape certain scenes,
Yeah.
that's what I want. And the same thing, like with saying pro wrestling is dead. Well, I don't fully believe that that's the case. I just want it to be better. So whatever I can do to help the scene be better and to tell people my opinions on wrestling, because if all the guys, listen to me, then we have a lot more guys out there that want this to look like a fight, and they want their in-ring technique and product to be believable and really respect the sport. So I just want to go as many places as I can and try to help people see what wrestling was, many, many years ago, because I think if we get wrestling back to that, then the fan base will just keep growing.
Is a special goal. Very,
It's
very
it's
special goal. Yeah.
it's a big one, and I know how crazy that it kind of sounds, but yeah, the older I get, the more I realize that small goals don't help us out very much, or that
Absolutely.
there's no goal that's too big. And I mean, like, I will set my huge goal, then I make small ones on the journey to get me there. I'm not saying don't set a small goal, but if we're going to dream anything, it might as well be huge, because someone's got to do it. And I've been really lucky over the last few years. Well, most my career actually, where I wrestle former WWE guys all the time. And the last few years, I've wrestled with a bunch of former WWE guys who were very, very famous and very, very popular. And I've had them tell me at the end of the match, they think I'm better than them. And if I got told that by a guy who has had WrestleMania main event holding a
It's
title,
satisfying.
yeah, then it's satisfying, but it also lets me know, like, oh, I guess it's possible to be that good because someone who has accomplished whatever your goal is, probably,
Yeah, yeah,
So like, why them and not you? If you put in the work and you get yourself in the situation for that to become a possibility. And yeah, I've been to 32 countries now, and I see no reason why in the next couple years that can't be 40 or 50. Um, the tricky part is with me. I didn't have the WWE name, and I didn't have a W or AEW name. So when I try to get my foot in the door in a lot of situations, it's harder because realistically, people don't know who Jake Omen is. Unless I just happen to show up in your scene randomly, like I did in Barcelona or like I did in Rome. Uh, I don't really expect people to know who I am because there's a lot of wrestling product out there, and if I'm not, next to Seth Rollins on Monday Night Raw, not a lot of people are gonna
yeah.
go out of their way to bring me in. So I have to show people my value, and I just have to keep going new places because every time I go somewhere new, I know that somebody there can help me get somewhere else new, or they can
Right.
introduce me to someone else. Um, in 2014, the first time I came to Europe, I was kicking and screaming for people to try to use me on shows. Like, I showed up not booked at several shows just to talk to people and be like, "Hey, I'm here and I'm good. And if you put me on the show, you won't regret it." And that I eventually I got on shows, and then now those are places where people from those shows 10 years ago still hit me up now and ask me when the next time I'm coming to their country is. And they've helped me get so many places, but it was a really hard conversation to get there in the first place. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, so now it's like I'm not gonna set small goals anymore because life
Yeah.
is too short for that.
Jake, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time for this conversation, and I wish you the best for you to become not only the best coach that ever lived, but a very great wrestler in a great company or a major company one day. I hope so.
Thanks for having me. Sorry, I get a little long winded, and no, I appreciate the time, man. Thanks for reaching out.
See you next time.
Yep. See you soon.
Bye.